Hello, this is Joe Peters from MomFit with Joe Peters. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network and the Hair Network Single TV channels 250 and 251. Remember to download the app. The Single TV uh, app is available in the iOS stores and the Android devices. While you are downloading, please make sure to rate the app and leave a comment. The app is free. Single TV is also available on several platforms for you to find and enjoy. Single TV is available in Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV Stick, Roku, and Roku sticks in all smart TVs since 2016. I am super excited to have this beautiful day of fall with Dr. Jess. Dr. Jess is going to be a pleasure to have as a guest. And I want to start with the phrase that inspired her because that is going to give you a little bit of understanding of the amazing one phrase is by Joseph Campbell and is we must be willing to let go of the life we plan so as to have the life that is waiting for us. And I love that because probably that is one of the best ways to describe motherhood, right? Is part of the painful parts of motherhood is when we try to get into motherhood, but we are still clinging into our previous life. One of my favorite phrases from military captain from the United States is the phrase that he used to say, "Plans are good until the war starts." And it's very similar. It's like we can have a lot of plans, but then we need to be flexible and willing to let go and be flexible and adjust circumstances. I'm very happy to have you here, Dr. Jess. A little bit about Dr. Jess so you all understand her background and where she is and her wisdom. Dr. Jess is a board, Dr. Daigle. How you pronounce
It's Daigle.
Daigle? Okay. Dr. Daigle is a board certified pediatrician, NCU, and pediatric hospitalist, and the founder and CEO of Mom and Me MD, an in-home and virtual concierge practice designed to deliver one-on-one personalized care to newborns and their moms during the fourth trimester to make transition from the hospital or the birth center to home easy and less overwhelming.
Yes.
I graduate from Xavier University of Louisiana. We are actually sisters because I am graduated from a Xavier University too in Colombia with a science and chemistry and received her Doctor of Medicine at Louisiana State University in New Orleans. She completed her pediatric residence at Morehouse School of Medicine and received extra training in neonatal perinatal medicine at the University of Maryland Medical Center. She is a former medical director of level 2 of NCU. And that for that, I want to hug you with my heart because that is one of the most challenging times in the time of a mom. Your baby is there and that you are leading that and we're leading that just about your heart. Uh, and she lead that at the Will Star Spanglin Regional Hospital in Griffin, Georgia. Dr. Daigle loves educating, advising, and reassuring moms, especially new moms and ICU moms. And she believes that moms and their babies should thrive, not simply survive their fourth trimester and beyond. And for that, I know we are going to have a fantastic time together because we are very aligned on that. And that is what MomFit is about, is creating that support preventively in pregnancy, but then in the postpartum of doesn't have
Yeah,
to be as hard as we think as it should
that's
be.
right.
So please welcome, and I would love for you to share a little bit about your story, who you are, and we will go from there.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction. So glad to be a part of your show and be a part of anything that's helping moms and their families on this journey of motherhood and parenthood. So, as you already know, I'm a pediatrician. I am a wife, a mom of two kids, and both of my kids were born early. So I definitely gone through it personally and professionally. I grew up in Louisiana, only child. And you all know all my history there in regards to my education, but I've just always had a passion. I think it was God given for working with kids and their families. But it was once I had my own children that I really understood the struggle of motherhood, because I was a pediatrician before I had kids. And so I used to joke with my families in clinic all the time, like, you probably could tell me a little bit more about raising kids than I can tell you. um, because it definitely is different, the information you learn, but then putting it into practice is a little bit harder. And the struggle there, with being a parent, and you're getting so much input from, the doctors have their opinions and the research and all that stuff, but then you have your parents and your friends and your family and neighbors, and everybody's wanting to tell you how to raise your children. And so it can become overwhelming because, like any good person and any good parent, you want to get it right, right? And so, but what I've come to realize is that right can look so different for different people. And, obviously there are standards, like, things that should be done for health and wellness and things like that. But a lot of it is on a range and is on a spectrum. And so I aim to help my families understand that more of what are the no-nos in regard to like safety and health for their kids. But then after that, it's kind of like, well, it can depend on a lot of different things. And I think if we approach parenthood and motherhood, like you said, that flexibility, it serves us better in the long run.
Thank you so much for that. And um, it's very important. And I really love to see how you, because, right? Like I always say, the dots connect backwards. And having a baby that is preterm, that is not full term, can be very traumatic and very stressful for any mom. And that
Yes.
you took that and actually transformed that, instead of just going through the trauma and move on, but you transform that into something that ignite you to be willing to help others into understanding something very, very beautiful. And I agree with you. The part of the ability and is part of what we both are doing is trying to bring some more awareness of what is normal and what is natural, because it is
Yeah.
different, right? Like there is a lot of
Yeah.
time that we assume that everything around motherhood is natural, and then because
Yeah.
it's natural it should come up easy, but then we almost never understand what is normal and what is natural. And then with the
Yeah.
normal we start having some discussions like latching issues when you are having a preterm baby that had a tiny little
Yeah.
mouth, and if your baby's in the NCU and you want to breathe, how you can make sure that you protect your supply and work with your
Yes.
team to make that happen.
Yes.
So I'm so happy, so grateful to have you here. One of the things that I want to start with is the theme, the topic of this call, and that is your the topic, and the what I love in that for you was motherhood is a on the job training, and that hit really close to my heart because in my previous life I was an executive for Fortune 100 companies, so I really know how important it is to have like that mix of the training and then on the job training to have uh, a successful approach. So why we don't talk a little bit about that? What do you mean with motherhood is in the job training?
So it's like you said, and it's funny how you talked about having a job. With most things in life, like even say me being a doctor, I had to go and learn some information, and then I had to be tested on it, and to make sure I qualified, I had enough of an understanding to be able to go out and take care of babies. And even then, I still had supervision. So that's like in residency when they're watching you, to make sure you're going to do it right. You still have that oversight, right? Like to make sure you're not going to get it 100% wrong or crash and burn. Well, when you have a child, that is it. Like you are given the title mom, no one is gonna like see if you're qualified, if you're capable. Well, they're not going back and do the history and seeing like what have you learned, what do you know. Let's see if you know how to change a diaper, let's see if you know how to hold a bottle. None of these things. And so you're learning as you go. And so even with all of the preparation of, you can read what to expect when you're expecting, and there are lots of books and things out there definitely that can give you information. It's still as you go. And I think if people understand that, it takes the pressure off. Like you like you have to know something right now. Like I had a mom in the hospital I was seeing, and she was first time mom, and she was learning how to breastfeed, and I think the baby slept a little bit longer than we probably would have liked, you know and she was so upset about it. Like, I didn't know, I should have like tried to stir him up. And I was like, why would you know that? Like, where have you learned something? Did you go to school somewhere where they said, hey, this is what you're supposed to do, and then you didn't do it? And then she thought about it. Like, no, you that's why you have help along the way. You're learning as you go, and you're going to keep putting a little bit of information and add it to your arsenal. Even me as a pediatrician, I'm still learning, and I've learned a lot. I'm learning from people who are not pediatricians, who are doing things. I have a toddler. I follow this group on Instagram, and they're teaching you how to deal with your toddler ways. And I'm like, this is some really good stuff, because we don't even learn a lot of that type of stuff, even as a pediatricians, like in training. Even for me, it's on the job training. That's why we have continuing medical education. Like, is more information is always available, and you're having to take it and sift through it and decide what applies to you and what doesn't apply to you. And so if moms understand that, it takes that pressure off of, it's not a finite moment. You are a mother forever. Your child is growing every day. They're different when they're 1 day old than when they're 1 month old than when they're 1 year old, right? So that's really where that comes from.
Good. I love that. And actually, you make me remember, I saw a clip that was beautiful a few weeks ago of they were in a seminar about parenthood. And then one mom was in tears because she realized that she was not doing something for the benefit of her baby. And then the speaker was like, okay, tell me, how much time do you think that you have to correct what you now realize that you were not doing right? Because what you were saying is that on the job training, so you learn as you go. So before today, yesterday, you didn't knew this, so you really were doing what you thought was the best. Now you
Yeah.
know, how long you think that you have? And then mom in tears was like, I don't know, until he's 12, 13. And then the speaker was like, the human brain develops completely at age 23 and 25 years old. And that means that you have until that time to actually keep nourishing, keep teaching, keep helping your kids and giving them skills. And when you were saying that dots connect, and I think that every mom should know that, because it's not that pressure of what I did with my baby at 6 months old, I screw up and then it's done. I just screw
Yeah.
him up for the rest of his life. Is
Yeah.
I learn better, and I have another 25 years to keep working on adding and repairing that I did when I didn't have any other information about what is good. One thing that I love, and my deep desire is that I need to say this because I'm gonna be struggling with this in my mind all the time. I found an article that says, because I'm a little bit of a feminist, that normally male doctors are called doctor and their last name, but normally female doctors are called doctor and their first name. And there was a lot of hypothesis on that. And I agree that they should be all, both on their doctor and their last name. And I
Hmm.
want to ask you for a free pass because English is not my first language. So if I try to call you doctor and your last name, I'm gonna be struggling the entire interview. Daggle?
No, I like
Is
going by
Daggle?
Dr. Jess, actually. No, it's Daigle, but I like going by Dr. Jess. And the interesting thing about that is it would be interesting to ask if the women said that because I feel like as women we tend to be a little bit more relaxed anyway. So like that casual. So that's why I go by that, because I am more of a personable person and casual. So that's why I ask people to address me as that. But like in a clinic setting, when I'm at work, people do call me by Dr. Daigle. But when I'm dealing with like my own clients for my business and on here, I do like to go by Dr. Jess.
Thank you so much. And the article was actually a female doctor that was receiving awards with many other doctors. And then the
Okay.
article was her seeing the difference when in a official
Yeah.
scenario, all the all the male doctors were doctor last name, and then when they went to
Yeah.
her, it was doctor and her first name, and she was like, "Huh, this is
Yeah.
interesting." But
Yeah,
okay,
it
Dr.
is.
Yes, thank you for clearing the air, because I was coming in the back of my head, and I was
Oh
like,
yeah, no,
"Oh,
no
this is going
problem
to
here.
bother me." So, okay,
No, yeah, you're good.
Dr. Jess. So one of the things that I would love to have, and this is one of my dreams, is that every mom in the United States, every mom in the world, have access to a pediatrician like you. Because
Oh, well, thank
one of
you.
the beautiful things and the things that I love on what you're saying is we as moms need a team. And that team absolutely include a pediatrician and include other people in the team that had expertise on things the
Yes,
pediatrician doesn't uh, gain in their medical school. So things like a lactation consultant for breastfeeding, like
yes,
you know some, but you are an
yes,
expert on breastfeeding. So things like that. And I love what you were saying, because that showed that you are aware of that and you keep learning and you keep adding things like, oh, this is interesting. I learned this in medical school, but it's helping me. And
yes,
I will love that so much, because there is so many times that unfortunately moms hit with a pediatrician that doesn't have that approach and
nope,
don't disclose fully that they don't have
yeah,
all the information. So there are moms
yeah,
that are taking advice and are taking approach in their kid life based on the pediatrician personal experience, not based on medical things.
yeah,
So that is my goal, that we get to a point that every pediatrician is like you, understanding that and having a devotion for keep learning and keep having that holistic team and
yeah.
preparing for the best experience for the moms. Now, I have one thing that I would love to have your thoughts, and that
Okay,
is what is the balance for, because right now they are watching us all over the world, and mainly my audience are pregnant women and new moms. So,
okay.
what is the right balance between a pregnant mom that doesn't know what doesn't know, and that is assuming that everything may flow perfectly, unicorns and butterflies, how that mom can still do some preventive,
Yeah,
active, overall understanding of things to get a little bit more prepared. That is part A. And then part B, how a mom that have their baby preterm or full term, but is facing both curves in the way that the relationship with their baby is coming, that is probably different than what they were expecting. What are some of the things that they could do in the middle of the exhaustion, of the sleep deprivation, to actually figure out a way to help themselves and help their family?
okay. So you have two questions. So your question is preparing when you're pregnant, but also like if you are a person that has had your baby early, how to deal with that, or if you know that you're going to have a baby early, like that too. Okay. So um for we have a world of a lot of access to information, right? We have a lot of access to information via Google, and so that's a double-edged sword, right? So the more information you have, you can choose to feel empowered, but that can also make you feel more overwhelmed, right? Because then the more you know, then you will worry about more. So that's where that whole phrase is ignorance is bliss, because if you don't know not to worry about it, then you're not worried, correct? But you're right, it is a balance, and it is something where you're going to teeter on each side. And so overwhelm will happen. You will be overwhelmed at some point in your journey as a parent, as a mom, because of the fact that there is information and we know that bad things can happen, right? So then it becomes, how do I deal with things that are overwhelming, right? How What are the tools, what are steps I can take to calm myself, get myself back focused, so I don't teeter into the anxiety and the depression because of these things that are not out of my control, that are out of my control, I mean. So it's the first thing is just knowing that things can happen. And if anybody watching were to think right now, you probably can think right now of one thing that has happened probably today that you didn't plan for, or yesterday, or this week. Right? Okay, and then you can think, okay, how did I decide to deal with that? And so it's the same thing with pregnancy. Like, it's knowing that having a baby is a wonderful thing, but things can happen. You cannot know that the baby might have a heart defect, or they may come early. And so then it becomes the choice to say, you know what, I'm going to empower myself to say, I'm not going to, it's a decision. I am going to decide not to let this incident take me out or take me over. I'm going to do what I can, which is I can strive to understand what is happening. I can strive to understand what my choices are in light of this new thing. For example, so if you do have a baby that's being born early, you can't change the fact that your baby was born at 31 weeks. Like for me, my son was born at 31 weeks. Okay. But I can say, hey, what does that mean for my baby? I can say, this is my baby. I'm going to make sure that I talk to the doctor. I'm going to make sure that they explain to me what I need to understand. I'm going to understand what resources I need are at my disposal. You can flip that and be the assertive person of getting the help that you need, getting the information you need to make decisions that you need to make. Because the reality is, it has happened. So you can't go back. And if you don't want to stay stuck either. So if you cry about it, it's not changing the situation. But if you say, you know what, this is sad. So validate yourself. First we need to say this does suck. Like, nobody wants to have their baby early. Nobody wants to have a bad things happen to themselves. So validate yourself. Hey, I really don't like that this happened, or I am very sad that this happened, or I am frustrated or discouraged. Okay, okay, now what? Okay, but in light of that, I still have something positive I can get out of this. Okay, my baby's born early, but they are still here with me now. What can I do to make them more successful? Okay, well, I can pump. Let me put some breast milk, get breast milk going. Or um, okay, well, my resources. My baby's born early. People are asking me, what can they do? Hey, give me some gas cards so I can go visit my baby in the NICU. Or, hey, it would help if you set up a meal train so mom doesn't have to worry about cooking for her other two kids that are at home. She can focus on taking care of those kids and go and visit her baby in the NICU. So that's kind of how I try to help my families when I'm working with them to approach. That's the method I use when I'm helping families in the hospital. We deal with the information that's sad. I sit with them and I validate. I am sorry that your baby had to come early and they are in the NICU. Yes, this is not what we wanted. But hey, guess what? Your baby is actually breathing on their own with minimal support. So I try to point out some of the positive things that are happening. As far as preparing when you're pregnant, I like to do what's called a postpartum plan. So we do know one of the things, if you're a mom that's still pregnant and watching this, your life is going to change when you have a baby. That's everybody. And these are the 5 areas that I say you're going to change in. You as a mom, your body physically, your emotions are going to change. There's a lot of research that's happened about postpartum and fourth trimester, and people are realizing that this time is under supported. This realization that moms are going through a lot of changes that people are not supporting them in that. And so again, like you point out, that natural and normal, these are natural things. Your body has hormonal changes, and so that postpartum blues, that feeling up and down, all that emotional, people that is natural and it is normal. So it's nobody needs to feel bad about it or disheartened. It's what do I do? How can I handle and manage this temporary, often temporary change in my body? And the key is that it's natural and normal, so you don't take on guilt for something that is supposed to happen. Your body is supposed to change. Your baby is supposed to cry. They know how to suck, but they have to learn how to latch. So you do need lactation support. None of these things are anybody's fault. It's understanding that this is what will happen. So then, how can I support myself in these changes? Let me meet with lactation consultants. Let me see if a doula might be what might help me. Let me see about getting pelvic floor therapy because my body is changing from weighing down with a baby. So it's being empowered to take care of yourself, knowing that these things are changing, and talking with your partner or spouse. A lot of times we forget to include our partners and our spouses in this journey, but their life and men just may not be as voiceful about it, but they have concerns too. So, hey, honey, how do we want to raise our kid? How do we want the first couple of weeks at home to look like? Who's going to help us with other kids, with our groceries, with our chores? So, if you just know that Dr. Jess is telling me my life is going to change in these areas, what will make me feel more successful of a transition at home? What things can I have in place? Will go a long ways towards making you feel less overwhelmed and making you feel a little bit more in control of the changes that are happening. So that's my advice to my families.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that we are very aligned with that on two things. The first one is I love how you are pointing out that there is no need for guilt and shame, because one of the first things that happened for, I will say, even society brainwash and even some kind of motherhood instinct is, as soon as things don't go as we were expecting or planning, the first thing that we start thinking is what I should do different, what I
Yeah.
screw up. Wow, what is this happening to me? And then I
Yeah.
love how you are getting that confidence on nothing. There is absolutely, well, I guess that there are a very, very,
Yeah.
very, very
Cases.
small percentage of
Yeah.
moms that can do like very crazy things to
Yeah.
end on a preterm baby.
Yeah.
But we are
Yeah.
talking about, like, what do you say, Dr. Jess? 1%, 2%,
Yeah. What the
like
percentage?
the
For
majority
most
of
cases, we don't
us
really
will,
know. Yeah.
yeah, the majority of us will not get into that level of actions. So it's
Yeah.
matter of understanding that, like, there is nothing that I could do different. This is what is happening, and how I move through it. And I love how you also acknowledge the part of it's okay to have the feelings. So because right now, sometimes, especially with this patriarchal, we almost think on all or nothing, on these two things being completely opposite. We are like, oh, if
Yeah.
you are going to take action and move forward, then you don't have time for things. You just deal with them and push through it. Or the other way that happen is like, oh, if you are feeling and sad and crying, then you are
That
not
means you
taking
can't
action. I
move
love
forward.
how you
Exactly.
are bringing them together and say, no, there is a middle side
Yep.
in the journey where you can acknowledge your feelings. You can say this sucks. You can cry. You can allow yourself to be sad and frustrated and angry about what is happening to you and your baby, and at the same time
And
have
right.
the option to take action, to move forward, to see who can help you, who can support you. And I love how you are having that approach of being prepared ahead of time. I love what you were saying, like, who's going to do the groceries, who's going to do the dishes, because things that I've been seeing, and I know that this is your expertise in the fourth trimester, is it is a lot harder for us as moms think clearly and see multiple options in the fourth trimester, because
Yeah.
we are exhausted, we are
Yep.
sleep deprived, we are trying to figure out how, and who's crying all the time. We normally,
Yeah.
majority of us, have some kind of issue either with the latching or with the baby digestion, all that. So
Yep.
if, in addition to all those things we're saying that are out of our control, we top the things that are in our control, then it's a lot easier to get overwhelmed. So I love how you are saying, hey, you are going to have a lot of things out of your control in the fourth trimester. Let's gonna take all these things that you can control out of the fourth trimester, and let's gonna walk through them, prepare for them, talk about them during your pregnancy. How you're saying with your with the partner, talk with the partner. Hey, what is important for me? Like actually, I was talking with a client earlier because she was about her baby shower, and she was talking with me about her baby shower and what she wants to talk. And one of the things that I'm starting to create a movement is I think that moms should have both a baby shower but also a mom shower.
Yep.
And then we were talking about that, and I was saying like, to be honest with you, what are the things that the baby needs? Well, like, to be honest with you, the baby don't need much. The baby need
Nope.
diapers, maybe a bottle,
Yep.
maybe a pump. What you
Yep.
and the baby need is
Yep.
postpartum doula hours that they can
Yep.
give you, a
Yeah.
postpartum massage, a lactation consultant. Now that
Yeah.
you are pregnant, you can have a little bit of idea, and then after the fact, if anything happen, you have that some
Yes.
consultation and some gift to have a couple of hours with Dr. Jess when you are pregnant.
Yeah.
So, and then she was like, "Wow, I never thought about that." And I'm like, "We don't." So we end having like this party with a lot of clothes and a lot of toys that the babies don't even um, enjoy, and we miss an opportunity to actually have meaningful gifts
Yes.
and actions that will actually
Yes.
impact that
Meaningful. I
fourth
love that.
trimester in the life of,
I love that. Meaningful. I love that
yeah,
you said that.
and the love
Yeah.
on the, yeah. So I love what you say, because and every mom is, I love how you are being aware and acknowledging that every mom is different. So for me, a big deal can be a dirty kitchen. And then for you, a dirty kitchen can be okay, but laundry can be a big deal. So it's a matter of saying like,
Yep.
okay, this is my priority. And then the other thing that I normally do with my clients is create a list of how you can help when the baby arrives. And I ask them, don't wait until the baby arrives, because if
Nope.
you are tired with the baby and getting overwhelmed and somebody come and say how I can help, you're going to be like, I'm so tired, I don't have time to think about how you can help.
Yeah.
So what we end saying is, it's okay, we are good. So create a list,
That's
and then
true.
when people ask, you are if simply bring the list and say, "Oh, you want to help, here, this is the list, pick something from this list and that will help." So I love how
Yes.
you are empowering in that. One thing that I want to ask you is, on terms of preparing for birth, preparing for that fourth trimester, and I want, because you're a doctor, I want you to share with me your thoughts on the three pillars, like physically, mentally, and emotionally, how we can get into that empowerment that you want for all the mamas in the world of
Okay.
saying, okay, this is what is in my control, this is what I can do, and
Mm-hmm.
then this is how I can activate the people around me to support me in that
Yeah.
journey, to try to get the plan that I have, and also have plan B and C if anything
Yeah.
happens out of what I was
Yes.
expecting.
Yes. Okay. So physically, depending on if you either have your baby vaginally or via C-section. And so then with that, you'll have healing that'll have to take place. So, there'll be all the things that you'll need, like tangible things like mesh panties and like pads and peri bottles for rinsing and things like that and managing your pain. And I always tell my parents, don't wait till your pain is a 10 before you ask for something to take your pain down. If you're feeling uncomfortable around pain level 5 or 6, that's actually the time to take something. So your threshold is a little bit lower. It's much better to go from a 5 to a 1 than trying to get from a 10 pain level to a 1. That's going to be a little bit harder to achieve. So I always advise people to do things that soothe them a little bit more on the front end to make their healing a little bit better on the back end. And so a lot of times when you're at the hospital, your OB will be giving you information about how they want you to care for themselves and on whether you're vaginal or C-section, if you've had to have repairs and all those things. So that's not too much stuff to worry about, but definitely having peri a peri bottle for rinsing and heating things for heating and healing and cooling and things like that. And even more so physically with that for breastfeeding. So having pads and things like lanolin cream for your nipples and healing cooling gel pads, and a lot of these things are like, if you go to Amazon, and I'm not being paid to say any of these are just things I've given to people. I like they have a lot of little postpartum little kits that are available. I think the Frida Baby makes a nice one, and I've gifted that to people, and it has a lot of that stuff in there ready to go, things you can start with, because I like things where it's all in one, because you don't want to have to be trying to piece together so much stuff. So I love that. And see, that's a good thing you can ask for in your gift registry. Hey, give me a postpartum healing kit, give me some breastfeeding supplies and things. So that's like the physical part. Mentally, again, it's kind of knowing that I'm going to be going through a transition. So telling yourself that, hey, when my baby is born, my life is going to change, but that's okay. Saying that's okay, because it's otherwise you can't do anything about it. I tell them we have a no return policy at the hospital. So once you have the baby, you can't bring them back. So you have to manage, okay? But but the thing that shouldn't feel make you feel empowered is millions of women have done it, okay, before you. So that should encourage you, because if it was not possible, we would not have children. We would not be doing this. We would have stopped a long time ago. We would have gave up and say, you know what, this is not for people. We should not be doing this. But since we keep having kids, that means it's possible, it's doable with the right support, with the right information, with the right attitude. And so mentally it's saying, hey, there are going to be changes. If you know that you are predisposed to depression, anxiety, you can actually start therapy now. As soon as you find out you're pregnant, if you're somebody that's already on something, you don't have to wait till the baby is born. You can be working through, because you're already going to be going through some changes while you're pregnant. Actually, your body's changing, your emotions, your hormones, everything starts to change. So baby is starting to grow inside of you. So you can already actually be helping yourself to start working on coping mechanisms. So when your baby comes, you're actually already a well-oiled machine at it, right? And then along with that is, like you said, that part of that planning, I like to tell my families to have what I call a 911 crew. So that's like your group of people. So, we call 911 in emergencies. That's like, we know that they're going to help us, and they're going to come ready. They know what to bring. They know what we need. Have these people that are going to be, it could be comprised of family, friends. It could be your pediatrician, your doula, your partner, your spouse, a friend, lactation consultant. Like you said, it's a team of people that you will need. And it's one of those things, like, it's better to have something and not need it than need it and not have it. So you can have your group of people on standby. It doesn't mean that you'll necessarily need them, but if you need them, like you say, the mental part of having to figure out who you can call, you've already done that work. So you can say, nope, we said when we needed help with lactation, we were calling Stacy or Dr. Jess, because I've actually become a lactation consultant myself, because we didn't learn that in training. I was like, I want to become lactation because I want to be able to help my families. But this is who I can call. Or, okay, I'm having some issues with my bladder leaking. Oh wait, I already have looked into a pelvic floor therapist, somebody that can help me with strengthening those core muscles. One of my colleagues as OBGYN, but she helps women through back pain issues, specialty. And so she even helps women while they're pregnant. So if you're already somebody that's dealing with issues with pain, chiropractors, there are different people that can help you while you're pregnant. You can continue a lot of those services after you had the baby. So again, it's that whole self-care thing that came up, right? My friend had a good definition of self-care is as taking stock of your needs moment to moment and meeting those needs. So if like you said, do a kind of a self-reflection. Okay, I'm pregnant right now. What are the things that matter to me in my life? For me, what'll matter for my baby, for my spouse, for my home? And then what are things that I can set in place? And that will help you physically, mentally, and emotionally, because a lot of the physical things we go through affects us mentally and emotionally, because we place value on the things that we're going through, right? And so, your therapist, your counselor, having all these people lined up, like you can say, you know what, I'm going to make an appointment to talk with my counselor the first week after my baby is born so they could check in with me and see how I'm doing, how I'm adjusting. And that's why I started Mom and Me, because I want to do that for my family's weekly check-in, because you have the baby, the pediatrician office, they're rushing you, because they're trying to see 60 people. And then your OB don't really see you for a few weeks. What's happening to our moms those first 4 to 5 weeks? They're drowning a lot of times. So you need that check-in, that mental, somebody just to say, hey, how are you dealing with the transitions? And because you're right, we tend to just brush things off, especially in this society where women already feel a pressure to have it all together. Then when there's any challenge to that persona, even which is nothing like motherhood to challenge your thoughts about yourself, right? That's like a real reality check, okay? So, you're then even more so, you just like, I'm in it. And you're right, because we hear stories of people suffering through it and not talking about how to empower themselves through it. We think that that is natural and normal to suffer, but that part is not the natural normal we want. While it may be natural that you're going through changes, we do not want you to accept that you need to suffer. You can be supported, you can have the help that you need, and it not make you be weak, but actually make you be stronger, because your baby is going to do as well as you do. And in line with that whole looking forward, there have been studies that have shown that how mom's mental state during that time, there's research that shows that it does impact babies and kids well-being. So it does do us all a good service to and help our moms in their pregnancy, in their postpartum journey, because this is setting the stage for emotional well-being for their kids and themselves moving forward, right? Because however you mean to do something now is how you'll keep doing it. So if you establish healthy behaviors and tools for dealing with difficulty and stresses in your life, then you can keep up that as you parent and as your kids grow up as well. And so all of that kind of ties together.
I love that. And one of the things that I want to reinforce on what you were saying about having that 911 list that I love is we all have different personalities,
Yep.
and all our team and the providers also have different personalities. And I shared this a lot of times in the show about I had an issue with my meal. My meal didn't came until like 10 days after. So my baby was not gaining weight. I didn't have a lactation consultant. I was very lucky that one of my closest best friend is one. So I was one of the few ones that was able to connect after the fact, very lucky. But for example, my pediatrician, when the baby was born, he was not very gentle in the way that he talked. So overall, what happened was when the baby was losing weight, he was not thinking about me as a mom and my feelings. He was thinking on the baby. So that first appointment, he was very rushing to almost telling me that the baby was having, and was
Yeah.
very traumatic for me. So the other thing that is important on what Dr. Jess is saying about the 911 list is allow yourself to interview and meet a couple of providers. It's not just like, oh,
Yeah.
I have a pediatrician. Like, meet them and make sure that you resonate with them, that the values are aligned, that the energy is aligned. Because
Love
when you're in the
this.
fourth trimester, you are so vulnerable. Last thing that you want is having somebody that is trying to support you that is completely an opposite and conflicted personality than yours. You
Yes.
actually need people that surround you with their arms and that you feel care and love. That's why you
Yes.
it's very smart, like Dr. Jill was saying, do that work before. So you
Yeah.
have let's gonna say that you find out at 2. You have at least 6 months to just meet with people and say, yeah, really like Dr. Jess. She's going to be in my team. I meet this lactation
Yep.
consultant. I'm not sure about her. I'm gonna find another one. So
Yeah.
I love, love, love
I love
that.
that.
Yes. And then the other thing that I love, and I want to, as we start closing out the show, that I want your opinion is the part on we don't have to suffer, and that is very powerful because I love with your research and your understanding is I was talking with a mom and she was telling me that is that society perspective of oh, selfless love. So I am
Yeah.
sacrificing myself. I am suffering because of my kids. And I was like, you are really not doing anything good for them because what you are doing is teaching them to not care about themselves. You are
Yeah.
teaching them to not have self care. You are teaching them to not have boundaries. So at the end, when they are 30, 40 years, they are going to behave exactly like you, and it's going to be an ending cycle. So, with that being said, Dr. Jess, I will love if you share your top two advices for moms that are preparing to get into this on the job training as we start closing up, and then that you also share how moms can reach out to you because I know that you also have the option to have virtual support, so you will be
Yeah.
available to anybody in the world. So we're gonna share about what is like your last two advices for these moms that are preparing to change their life and have this on the job training, and then how they can reach out to you.
Okay, so my top two tips as you're preparing to have a kid is to be have a plan for things that you would like ideally, but to remind yourself that plans can change, and so flexibility will serve me as well. That's like my first tip. Be like, you know what? I'll have preferences, but I will commit to myself to be flexible in these preferences. Okay. And the second thing is to know that guilt does not serve you. Okay. Grace does. And so, with anything, I, even me as a pediatrician, I'm always reassessing. I'd let my kid go to this party and she got hand, foot, and mouth. Oh, I feel bad that she got sick. The reality is, it could have happened at school. It can happen, if we went to church. Things, kids will get sick. So I have taken away the guilt of that from myself. I'm going to still care for her because she's my child. So guilt doesn't serve us, grace does. If there's a different decision to make, then make it and then move forward because there's more where that's going to come from. And if people want to follow me, they can follow me on Instagram at momandme_MD. I do have a link on that page where they can sign up. They can do a free meet and greet, kind of like what you said. Hey, let's meet and see if we would even gel, like how I can help you and what your vision is for you and your family. And that's the best any of us can do. And nobody has all the answers. We're all learning as we go, even me.
Thank you so much. And I love that. And I love that first tip on saying, I have a plan. And I love how you put it because it's so powerful. You say, I commit to myself to be flexible because that itself shows so much grace and self love and self care into, yeah, the plan is the plan, but I'm not going to give myself a hard time if the plan doesn't go as I was planning it. But I'm gonna commit to myself to know that I'm also flexible, and as more flexible I am, as less pain I'm gonna feel. When you were talking, I was
Yeah.
thinking about that image of trees and saying in a storm,
Yeah.
the rigid trees are the ones that get the most damage because if the
Right.
bigger
That's true.
rigidity is when the wind start flipping, they don't have the flexibility. And if you ever saw
Nope.
a bamboo tree will flip close to the ground
Yep.
both ways, and then
Yep.
that flexibility
I love that.
allows the bamboo tree to actually survive any storm that happens.
Yes.
It's the same
I
for
love
us.
that.
So everybody, Dr. Jess, thank you so much for a packed session of
Mm.
wisdom, of love, of care, of knowledge. And then for all of you, if you want to follow Dr. Jess, remember is me and mom under lash MD. Is that right?
Mom and me, and that underscore MD. Yep.
MD. Okay. So go and follow her, go and meet with her, and make sure that you have
Yes.
the right team to support you in your fourth trimester. This show can also
Yes.
be heard on the Spanglish Radio Radio Network, please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and leave it.